I got to watch Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts early, and I'm now allowed to give you my full spoiler-free thoughts on the best and worst parts of the movie without fearing that Kevin Feige and his snipers are going to come after me. So let's get into my favorite parts of the movie, again, all spoiler-free. The first positive is simply just this team of the Thunderbolts themselves. I absolutely fell in love with these characters. The movie so smartly plays into the fact that these are all kind of like the B-list Marvel characters that not a lot of people in the universe, or honestly as us as fans, really care about compared to some of the other heavy hitters in this universe. But the movie makes you care for all of these characters, and the way they even form as a team in this movie, the bickering and constant quips between them when they are together, and some of the sweeter moments, it really just meshed so perfectly together. And they're honestly right up there next to like the Guardians as one of my favorite teams in the entire MCU. After just one film together, like, it was simply just a great dynamic to watch. What makes it all click is that this movie is incredibly realistic and grounded. And I know what you're thinking, isn't this a movie following this team of Thunderbolts, all either super powered or incredibly well trained? You got Sentry in this movie, like one of the most powerful Marvel characters to ever exist. What is this guy talking about saying this movie's grounded? Well, yes, you have all these different super powered people fighting and all this stuff in this movie, but the movie knows at its core this is about the characters themselves, their backstories, why they're so screwed up, how they're dealing with it, how that affects the decisions they're making. And the movie just has a level of sincerity and reaches some emotional highs that you would never expect from a Thunderbolts film, but it's something the MCU has really been lacking. Like something like Captain America Brave New World, I liked it more than other people. I think it's a perfectly fine, middle of the road, mediocre film. But the characters in that movie feel very one-dimensional in comparison to the characters in the Thunderbolts. It almost feels like you're just watching action figures just fight against each other. Like, none of the emotional moments really hit in this film. And you got other MCU projects lately like Thor Love and Thunder, where every single more serious moment is immediately undercut by a joke. It feels like you're watching like an SNL parody instead of like an actual movie. But the Thunderbolts understands, well, yes, everybody's coming to watch a big action blockbuster. We all want those huge, just like cool moments and great fight scenes, and don't get me wrong, this movie definitely has those, but it understands when to take it more serious, when to truly let the audience connect to each of these characters, understand who they are. And that's what makes movies great, is when you can truly feel attached to the characters in the story. Don't get me wrong, like I said, this movie is really funny too. I think it's one of the funniest MCU projects we've had in the last couple of years, because it knows when to sprinkle it in and it knows when to take it serious. That's what makes humor work, not throwing in a joke every 5 seconds. David Harbour as the Red Guardian, who if you don't know is Yelena's dad if you never watched Black Widow, he legitimately gives like one of the most truly funny performances I've seen in the MCU in a long time in this film. Like, so much of the humor of this movie relies on David Harbour and his delivery of different lines and jokes, and literally like every single line he has in this movie that you're supposed to laugh at, it worked for me in the entire theater. We were all laughing. He is so perfect as his character. Really, the entire team is super funny. Their dynamic together is great. A lot of the quips and bickering between them is great. Yelena gets a lot of really humorous moments in this movie. I mean, this should go without saying, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Valentina in this movie, absolutely hilarious. I mean, of course, she's one of the funniest actresses of all time with things like Veep, her as Elaine in Seinfeld. Like, honestly, some people might find her performance annoying because it's almost teetering on the line of being too goofy, but in my opinion, I think she balances it out perfectly, and I loved her in this movie. This movie has two real standout performances that really are like the MVPs of the entire film. The first one is Florence Pugh as Yelena. I've said this before, but I absolutely loved her in Black Widow. I think she's the best part of that movie, and even her cameo in Hawkeye was such a delight. She's just great as this character. But this movie was so smart in making the decision to be like, no, Yelena needs to really be the lead of this film, because honestly, she is quickly becoming one of my favorite MCU characters after this movie. I legitimately need Florence Pugh to be a major player in the MCU going forward, and like, we already know she's cast in Doomsday. I need her to have a pretty big role. She is so great as this character. This movie gave me a whole new understanding of her background and backstory, which, yeah, we had briefly alluded to in Black Widow and stuff, but this movie really is not afraid to get into the dark reality of it. And her dynamic with the rest of the Thunderbolts team is just so amazing. I don't want to be that guy that's always asking for like huge team ups in the MCU, but I'm legitimately super excited to see her interact with other heroes, because literally I feel like Florence Pugh would have great chemistry with anybody on this planet. The other MVP is Lewis Pullman as Sentry. Oh my god, they could not have handled this character more perfectly. First of all the best fight and action scenes in this movie are with him. He is so incredibly overpowered. I love it so much in this movie. Super intimidating. Some of like the most darkest action moments also happen with him in this movie. Like he has one moment in this movie, you'll know it when you see it, that my entire theater gasped out loud because of what Sentry does at one point. And the movie's asking for so much from Lewis Pullman in this movie. Like you're supposed to laugh at some of his moments in this movie. You're definitely supposed to feel bad for him, but also definitely be terrified and super intimidated by what he can do, and he absolutely pulls it all off so incredibly perfectly. And I'll use that as a transition to just talking about the action in this movie in general, because again, some of the best stuff we've gotten in the MCU lately, like it's not quite towards like Shang-Chi fight scene level, but it's honestly pretty close, because you can tell they truly put a lot of love and care into doing so many things practically. You've got people really jumping off of buildings. If you've seen that Florence Pugh video they've been advertising everywhere, that scene was dope. We've got real actors and stunt doubles actually like fighting each other with coordinated fights. We're flipping cars. We're doing as much practically as we can, and I really appreciate that from this movie because it really does just feel different. You can tell as an audience member when what you're watching is more real than just a bunch of big CGI and visual effect fight scenes. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of surprised by the lack of action in this movie. Not saying there's no fight scenes, obviously, I just said it was a highlight, but in comparison to like a typical MCU or superhero movie, I feel like it's definitely on the lighter end, but that's kind of what makes the action so good. Each fight scene and big action sequence actually has like reason and intention behind it that again elevates the character story themselves. It's not like you're just watching like rock'em sock'em robots button mashing at each other. Like there's actually intention going into every scene in this film. I swear it's not going to be all glaze. I'll have a few criticisms of this movie, but I do have more positives, and another one of the positives is the musical score for this film, especially the main Thunderbolts theme itself. I cannot wait for that soundtrack to release on Apple Music. I'm going to be listening to it because it absolutely slaps. So let me get a little bit into the criticisms, because no, this is not a perfect MCU movie, even though I obviously really like it. And one of the biggest complaints I have is that I feel like some of the members of the Thunderbolts just get outshined because of how much of a focus is on Yelena in this film. Like again, it is definitely a team up film. The dynamic between the characters is great. All their scenes together are amazing. I kind of just wish certain members got like one extra scene to shine and I would have been happy. And it's kind of a double-edged sword because I do think this movie is paced so incredibly well. I cannot believe how fast the 2 hours flew by. So maybe if you add in like one or two more scenes to dedicate to some of the other Thunderbolts and their past, their history, I don't know, maybe that slows down and kills the momentum of the movie, but it's just something I would have liked to see. And I kind of feel like they actually film more for some of these characters that just got cut. And I don't want to be the person to rain on everybody's parade, but I think the overhype that's happening about the second post-credit scene in this movie has gotten absolutely out of control. Like, I'd lower your expectations a good amount from what a lot of these other influencers and reviewers are hyping this scene up to be. They are acting like this is the most monumental thing you'll ever see in the MCU. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a very good post-credit scene. It has a great teaser in it, and it's actually like a couple minutes long, does a good job at further developing the story from the end of the film. But I feel like you just need to set your expectations at like a nice middling level instead of like, oh my god, this is going to be the best post-credit scene in MCU history like a lot of people have been telling you it is. Last one is just a criticism from Marvel Studios themselves, because while I'm still ultimately super happy with this final product we got, having this film not released like at the end of phase 4, having it released towards the end of phase 5 is such a weird mistake on their end. I know Ghost was introduced back in phase 3 of the MCU and Ant-Man and the Wasp, but otherwise then you had like Black Widow introduce obviously Yelena and the Red Guardian. You introduced Taskmaster in that movie, then the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Obviously Bucky's one of the main characters of that story. You introduced John Walker in that. So to wait for a team of all these characters till the end of phase 5 when we haven't seen any of these people in like 2 years is just a very weird decision, honestly. Like I said, I'm very happy with the final product we got. I think this movie's great, but I think narratively and just for a general audience interest, it would have been way better at the end of phase 4 when people were more familiar with these characters. Now it's been like 3 years since we've seen some of these people. But ultimately, I had such a great time with this movie. It's sitting right on the cusp of being in my top 10 MCU films. It might honestly be number 10. I'm gonna go and see it again on Friday when it's out for everybody and see where it finally settles. But as of right now, I'm gonna give this movie between an 8.5 and a 9 out of 10. Really great stuff. Make sure to tap the video above my head where I rank every single upcoming MCU movie and TV show by how excited I am for them.